1974 was the year rock and roll grew up and pop music found its swagger. A 12-month stretch when songs poured out of car radios and transistor speakers with a confidence that still lingers half a century later. These records turned 52 this year, and yet they refuse to sound their age. If the golden era of American radio still stirs something in you, consider subscribing so you never miss a video like this one. Here are 10 unforgettable songs from 1974. Number 10, Rock Me Gently by Andy Kim.
Ain't it good, ain't it right, that you are with me?
By the middle of 1974, Andy Kim had already been written off by much of the music industry. The Canadian singer had scored hits earlier in the decade, but watched his career fade as tastes shifted toward heavier sounds and glossier productions. Then came a song he wrote himself, produced himself, and initially released on his own small label after major companies passed on it. Rock Me Gently climbed steadily through the summer and reached the top of the Billboard Hot 100 that September. It became one of the year's great comeback stories, a reminder that persistence in music sometimes matters more than fashion.
Baby, baby, rock me gently, rock me slowly, take it easy, don't you know?
The song's warm, mid-tempo groove and sing-along chorus made it a staple of AM radio, and to this day it plays as easily on oldies stations as it did in the summer it was born. Kim spent roughly $8,000 of his own money recording the track, a gamble that paid off when it sold over 1 million copies in the United States alone, earning him a gold certification and a second act that the industry had been unwilling to bet on.
Rock me gently, rock me slowly, take it easy, don't you know?
Number 9, Benny and the Jets by Elton John.
Hey, kids, why don't you shake it loose together? Feel the spot in hell, something change the weather.
Released as a single early in 1974 after appearing on the previous year's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album, Benny and the Jets became one of the strangest chart toppers of the era. Elton John reportedly resisted releasing it as a single at all, convinced the odd piano vamp and staged crowd noise would confuse listeners. He was wrong. Detroit radio embraced it first, and the song reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 that spring. What made Benny and the Jets remarkable was not just its melody, but its willingness to sound unlike anything else on the radio. The stuttered vocal, the phantom applause, the glammed-up lyric about a fictional band, all of it felt like theater set to music. Half a century later, it remains one of the most instantly recognizable openings in popular music. The song also made John the first white solo artist to perform on Soul Train, an invitation that came directly because black radio stations had championed it weeks before mainstream pop programmers caught on. Number 8, The Way We Were by Barbra Streisand. Some songs arrive at exactly the moment a culture needs them, and The Way We Were was one of those. Written for the film of the same name starring Streisand and Robert Redford, the ballad reached number 1 in early 1974 and stayed there for 3 weeks. It later won the Academy Award for Best Original Song.
Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind.
The magic was in the restraint. Streisand did not oversing it. She let the melody carry the weight, delivering each line with the quiet ache of someone looking back at something beautiful and lost. In a year full of louder, brasher records, this one whispered, and audiences leaned in to listen. It became a wedding song, a graduation song, a song for anyone marking the passage of time. Composers Marvin Hamlish and Alan and Marilyn Bergman wrote it in a matter of days after the film's director Sidney Pollack decided a title theme was needed late in production.
Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind.
Yet the finished record spent more than 6 months on the charts and became Streisand's best-selling single up to that point in her career. Number 7, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet by Bachman Turner Overdrive. Randy Bachman recorded a rough demo of this song, intending it as a joke for his brother Gary, who had a stutter. He never planned to release it. When the label heard it, they insisted the stuttered vocals stay in. The band relented, and the song went on to become the group's only #1 single in the United States, reaching the top of the charts in November of 1974. The track is a masterclass in accidental genius. The chugging guitar, the shouted chorus, the playful vocal trick, all of it combined into something both silly and irresistible. It became a staple of classic rock radio and a jukebox anthem for decades.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Baby, you just ain't seen nothing yet.
Bachman-Turner Overdrive would score other hits, but nothing quite matched the lightning captured in this 3-minute stroke of luck. The single sold over 1 million copies in the United States within weeks of release and pushed the album Not Fragile to the top of the Billboard 200, giving the group from Winnipeg a commercial peak that very few Canadian rock bands of that generation ever matched. Number 6, Sundown by Gordon Lightfoot.
I can see her lying back in her satin dress.
The Canadian folk singer had been building his American audience for years, but Sundown was the song that pushed him fully into the mainstream. Released in the spring of 1974, it reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 that June. It was Lightfoot's only chart-topping single in the United States. The song's dark, brooding lyric was reportedly inspired by a difficult period in Lightfoot's personal life, and the melancholy shows through even in the smooth, laid-back arrangement. His baritone voice, the acoustic guitar, the understated production all worked together to create something distinctly of its time, yet somehow timeless.
Looking like the wind in a sailor's dream, and she don't always say what she really means.
Sundown captured a specific kind of 1970s loneliness that still resonates when the song comes on the radio today. The album of the same name debuted at #1 in Canada and reached the top 10 in the United States, spending over 30 weeks on the Billboard 200 and confirming Lightfoot as one of the most commercially durable singer-songwriters of his generation.
I can see her looking fast in her faded jeans.
Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from and which of these songs first pulled you back to the summer of 1974. We love hearing which records still transport you the moment the opening notes hit. Whether it was a first car, a first dance, or a kitchen radio on a Saturday morning, these songs meant something. Let us know. Number 5, Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin. Written by Harry Chapin and his wife Sandy, this song began as a poem about the distance between fathers and sons. Chapin himself said he found the lyric painful because it reminded him of his own struggles as a working musician who was often away from home. It reached #1 in December of 1974. Cats in the Cradle was unlike almost anything else on the radio at the time. It told a full story, beginning to end, without a traditional chorus hook driving it. Listeners followed the narrative from a newborn son through the father's eventual old age, and by the final verse, many were in tears. It became one of the most quietly devastating songs ever to top the American charts, and its message still lands with the same weight today. Sandy Chapin had originally written the poem years before Harry set it to music, and he later admitted in interviews that hearing the finished recording for the first time made him commit to spending more time at home, a private reckoning that gave the song's already heavy emotional core an extra layer of painful sincerity. Number 4, Kung Fu Fighting by Carl Douglas.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those cats move fast as lightning. Come on.
Recorded in around 10 minutes at the end of a session as an intended B-side, Kung Fu Fighting became one of the biggest novelty hits in music history. Carl Douglas, a Jamaican-born singer working in London, rode the martial arts film craze sweeping the West to a #1 single in both the United States and the United Kingdom. The song sold millions of copies worldwide before the end of the year. It was catchy, it was fun, and it was everywhere. 52 years later, the opening instantly transports listeners back to schoolyards, roller rinks, and radio countdowns of 1974. Novelty songs rarely age well, but this one has become something else entirely, a cultural artifact, a shared memory, a song everyone of a certain age can still recite word for word. Producer Biddu reportedly spent the bulk of that session working on the intended A-side, a ballad that vanished without a trace, while the throwaway track recorded in the final minutes went on to sell over 11 million copies globally and become one of the 20 best-selling singles of the entire decade. Number 3, You're No Good by Linda Ronstadt. Released late in 1974 and climbing to #1 in early 1975, You're No Good marked Linda Ronstadt's arrival as a full-fledged pop and rock powerhouse. Producer Peter Asher gave the song a sleek, driving arrangement, and Ronstadt delivered a vocal that combined country warmth with rock and roll edge. It was a cover, originally recorded years earlier by Betty Everett, but Ronstadt made it entirely her own. The song opened the door to one of the most successful runs of any American female singer in the 1970s. She would go on to sell records by the millions and cross genres with a fearlessness few of her peers matched. It all started with the moment she stepped up to that microphone and turned a forgotten soul song into a rock and roll declaration. The album Heart Like a Wheel, which contained the track, became her first #1 record on the Billboard 200 and was eventually certified platinum, establishing the commercial template that Asher and Ronstadt would follow across a string of multi-million selling albums throughout the rest of the decade. Drop a comment and tell us which one of these songs takes you back the fastest, and which artist from that year you wish had received even more recognition than they did. The comment sections on videos like this one often become their own kind of jukebox, full of memories from people who lived through the golden era of American radio firsthand. Number 2, Waterloo by ABBA. The Swedish quartet won the Eurovision Song Contest in April of 1974 with Waterloo, and within months the song had crossed the ocean and climbed into the top 10 in the United States. It was the world's first proper introduction to a group that would go on to become one of the best-selling acts in the history of popular music. Waterloo was pure, glittering pop. The stomping piano, the layered harmonies of Agnetha and Frida, the cheeky Napoleonic metaphor, all of it announced a new kind of songwriting from Benny Andersson and Bjorn Ulvaeus.
I tried to hold you back, but you were stronger. Oh yeah!
American audiences were not always kind to European pop acts, but ABBA broke through anyway. The song still fills dance floors, still plays over stadium speakers, and still sounds as bright and confident as it did the day it was recorded. At the Eurovision contest held in Brighton, England, ABBA received the highest jury vote total in the competition's history up to that point, and the television broadcast was watched by an estimated 600 million people around the world, making it the single largest audience any of the 4 members had ever performed in front of. Number 1, Band on the Run by Paul McCartney and Wings.
And on the run, and on the run.
After the breakup of the Beatles, Paul McCartney spent the early 1970s searching for a sound that would let him step fully out of the enormous shadow of his old band. He found it with Wings, and he found the definitive statement of that search in Band on the Run.
If I ever get out of here, don't give it all away to registered charity.
The title track, released as a single in the spring of 1974, became a #1 hit and cemented the album of the same name as one of the great records of the decade. What made it special was its ambition. The song shifts through 3 distinct musical sections, moving from moody ballad to driving rock to soaring pop, all held together by McCartney's melodic instincts. It was proof that he was not simply coasting on Beatle nostalgia. He was still making music that mattered, still writing songs that would outlive the moment. The circumstances surrounding the album's creation only deepened its legend. McCartney recorded it in Lagos, Nigeria, after most of the band quit before departure, leaving him, Linda, and guitarist Denny Laine to complete the sessions largely on their own, facing equipment theft and McCartney's own health scare in the studio. Half a century later, Band on the Run remains a warm, generous, endlessly listenable reminder of just how good 1974 truly was, and why the songs from that remarkable year still refuse to fade away.